what really gets my dick hard is...
So fucking what?
How's it sounding out there, huh? Sounding all fucking right to you? Good. I'll play some new crap now. You got the new one? Right on. This is a happy little one I'm sure you fucking all dig.
Sad but true.
Welcome to Metal Up Your Podcast. I'm Ethan Look.
And I'm Clint Wells.
And this week on episode 22, we finally have a sponsor, everybody. It finally happened after all the begging and pleading. This week on episode 22, our sponsor is Tone Tubby Speakers. And if you're a guitar player, you like high-quality speakers, these guys are the original hemp-based cone. Please check them out, get more info, here's some samples, all that good stuff at tonetubby.com. And we can't thank them enough for being our very first sponsor and building some kind of relationship here.
Yeah, and we're doing these, like, it's been fun. We've been kind of, like, figuring out how to do it, but we're doing these, like, riff of the week, like Ethan and I posting videos of us playing. This week, we each took a stab at the Unforgiven solo.
You went ahead and did like the clean part too. I was kind of keeping it within like the minute guidelines of Instagram and just did the more distorted part.
Well, I was gonna do the Nothing Else Matters solo, but then I thought it'd just be kind of fun to like get both of our takes on it. I will say,
yeah, for sure.
It's not a competition, but if I had to pick a winner, I would have picked yours because
yes, I win.
Yours was like really, really clean, and like all the like some of the faster stuff, I just sort of did my own like variation of it.
Dude, there's nothing wrong with that. I had a day off and like I was just in my room playing guitar. I think I was in Austin, and I haven't learned that solo in so long. I actually had to go back and really listen to it, and there was one little thing I felt like a total shithead, but I went and like looked at the tab real quick. I'm like, oh, that's right, that's what he did.
You shithead.
I'm such an asshole.
But so if that's interesting to you guys, it's pretty fun. And what we're going to do when we get these Tone Tubby speakers is all of those videos are going to be featuring those cabs. So we're really stoked to be partnering with those dudes to be kind of part of their team. So that's the end of that thing, right?
Yeah, we're going to jump right into our 10 emails for this week.
Yep, and I think you're going to start them.
I think I'm going to.
I think you might.
I think I'm about to do it right now.
Oh my God, go.
Here I go. Wow.
What if it was just an hour of that?
I know. No,
you ready?
Start
yeah,
first.
I'm going to do it. Really?
No, you go first.
You go first.
All right, the first one comes from Christopher Jurgis. Gents. I'm listening to your Revisited number 3 right now about Injustice for All, and when you mentioned the analog versus digital in the episode, it made me recall the parts of Death Magnetic that were recorded at Sound City, which I believe was all analog until the last day. It's interesting. I think you missed a word here. It's an interesting point there too. Is there a lot of video of like? Sorry, Christopher. Your grammatic errors here are confusing me. Interesting point there. There's a lot of video of Lars nitpicking over every single bar and going back to the documentary, and the question begs to be asked: are they losing some of the human element and some of those small imperfections versus perfecting every note of music? Love the podcast. Helps get me through my Mondays. Keep it up. Well, first of all, we're glad we can get you through the Mondays because the Mondays can suck if you're you're a blue collar worker. But yeah, I don't know, man. He's kind of been doing that for even before Pro Tools.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to argue about human element, there's like a human element missing from. I would argue Justice as well, just because it's so clean.
For sure.
I do think Metallica's an interesting example because you're right. Lars has been doing that even when they were all straight on tape. But the argument just in general and like the culture of recorded music, are we losing by making everything perfect? Are we losing something? I would argue for sure, yes.
Of course, yeah. Most
of my favorite records were made kind of in a live room without a click track, without a lot of overdubs. I mean, the Beatles did. I think they did everything except Abbey Road on a 4-track.
Which is crazy.
Which, for those of you who don't know, even when you have a 4-track, you really only have 3 because the 4th track is used to bounce. So
yeah,
to think of them doing Sgt. Pepper's on a 4-track is like amazing to me. So
oh yeah,
it is an interesting question though. It would be fun to somehow figure out an episode around their recording techniques, Metallica's like recording
Yeah.
history, their recording techniques. We'll have to brainstorm about that.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a fun one. But
Thanks,
yeah,
Christopher.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So this next email is Patrick from Sweden. Now, what happened on when we're reading our top 10s is we read his list backwards, and he was one of the two who we thought had Saint Anger first. He writes, "Hey guys, I'm Patrick929. What the fuck? Now everyone will think I'm some crazy dude," which we did.
We did, yeah.
He said, "You read my list backwards. You got to mention this in the new episode and correct it. I don't want to be known as some Saint Anger crazy guy."
And then a bunch of frowny faces.
Still love your podcast, though. Thanks for answering and always being so cool. Looking forward to the next episode. Always so exciting seeing what you guys are going to talk about. Take care. Now, here is his corrected list. Number 1, Load. Hello. Number 2, Justice. 3, Puppets. 4, Black Album. 5, Hardwired. 6, Lightning. 7, Reload. 8, Death Magnetic. 9, Kill 'Em All. 10, in its place of Dishonor, Saint Anger.
Can you imagine how he felt when he was listening to that episode?
Oh, my God. I bet.
And we said it number 1. He was probably driving or something going, no, no, no.
Oh my God! I'm so sorry, Patrick. Thanks for writing in and correcting it.
Yeah,
this is
you.
This is definitely a redemption moment for you, and I'm very glad to have gotten it straightened out.
Yes, definitely. Our next one comes from Nuno Custodia. I really want to thank both of you guys for creating and maintaining this podcast about our favorite band. Your attitude is so down to earth, and many times I feel like a fly on the wall during your conversations. You have a great and simple way of making the listener feel part of the show. You guys make me think, laugh, and have a good time all around. This by far the most human, passionate, funny, down to earth, and sincere music podcast I've ever heard. Wow, that's very kind. You respect the band, you respect the listeners, and you respect each other's opinions, something that other podcasts lack. Thank you for being there every week.
Very cool.
Luis Lima. Thanks, man.
That's probably the
That's
nicest
awesome.
email we've ever received.
I accidentally just said the name of the next person as if he signed it. It's a different name. I don't know why I did that.
Oh, you mean to thank Nuno?
Nuno, yeah. It might be Nuno Betancourt from Extreme.
It probably is.
Disguised as Nuno Custodia.
Yeah, that's the name he uses when he checks into hotels.
That's the name he uses when he writes to Metal Up Your Podcast.
You got to have a
I
pseudonym
don't want
for
to
that.
know it's me. Totally.
Luis Lima writes, "Hello, dudes." Should I do it in the Dave voice? Like I've been getting slagged for it. Should I just do it?
By all means.
Hello, dudes. He says, "The episodes are getting better since the beginning, and come on, I just fucking like and laugh my ass off with Torben impressions and Kirk Hammett moments."
Thank you so much, Luis.
I like that he called them moments, like our little Kirk moments.
I know.
You've just tuned into Moments with the Dainty Orphan. He goes on to say, "Hope you make an episode about James himself and his songwriting style and lyrics. Best wishes and rock on." We're definitely going to do an episode on Papa Het for sure.
Of course. There's no questions asked there. We might even do multiple ones.
Well, I was going to say we could probably do a whole episode just on James's lyrics, like evolution of his lyrics or the themes he likes to tackle, and maybe even like a top 10 on like best lyric, you know?
That would be a great top 10.
Thanks for writing in, Lewis. That's cool.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Our next one comes from Ellen Fidel from Regina, or I assume it's pronounced Regina, Canada.
Regina.
I always feel uncomfortable saying Regina. I know it looks like Regina, like the woman's name, but there are cities around the country named Regina.
All right.
And it just sounds uncomfortable. Sorry.
You just really want to say vagina. That's okay.
All right, he lives in Vagina, Canada.
Vagina,
Thanks, Alan.
Vagina, Canada, New Jersey.
New Jersey, of course. Yeah, I think that goes without saying now. Hey guys, just wanted to send you the show topic idea. I was thinking about the videos and the history of the videos might make a good show topic. Going from not doing videos for the first 3 albums in the middle of the MTV era to releasing a video for every song on the latest album at the same time. P.S. Thanks for the great podcast. Love listening to it every Monday. Yeah, I mean, we definitely have that on our list of show topics is the music videos, of course, starting with, one.
Yeah. Well, there's a rumor that they made, and I think it's strictly a rumor, that they made a video for Whom the Bell Tolls, but scrapped it.
Wow.
And that the official videos DVDs, I think, only goes up through 2004, so we would have a lot of catch up to do too.
Yes, definitely.
I think in terms of like the videos, I know they were stubborn at first, but not only have they obviously evolved with the videos, but somewhere along, maybe when they were actually doing this year and a half in the life, they got real hip to being on sort of the forefront of using technology to expand their fan base and to give their fans little special nuggets.
Definitely.
So it is cool. It is interesting. They went from not making any to making one for every song every time they make a record.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I loved all the ones off the new record.
Me too.
I thought they were really cool. I mean, obviously the hardwired video, all black and white with the strobe light, that was so exciting. But like even the ones that didn't even have them in it, that were like just made by other directors and stuff, were like so cool.
Wasn't the Spit Out the Bone video like that? Like a sort of a dystopian future.
Yeah, and then
robots and shit.
Totally. Yeah, there's some really good stuff. Murder One was awesome. The song about Lemmy.
Yep.
It's all animated and stuff. That was great.
Well, and then not to mention all the videos they put out of the making of these songs too. It's just so much cool content.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Kevin Van Dam writes, Clinton Ethan, just got done listening to the latest podcast on people's album rankings. I thought it had the potential to be repetitive or boring, but I had a pretty visceral reaction to this particular episode. Man, I was worried it was going to be boring too, but I think it turned out okay.
I'm with you.
He writes, what in the actual fuck are people doing putting Saint Anger at number 1? Furthermore, how can it be ranked at number 9 on so many lists? The number ones I can rationalize by people trolling a bit, but putting Saint Anger just ahead of an album like Kill 'Em All is baffling, since Saint Poo Poo is nigh unlistenable.
Saint Poo Poo.
That's interesting that one caught on. He says, a big thank you to the listeners who gave their reasons for putting Saint Anger at any position other than the garbage. Those were genuinely interesting and my favorite part of the episode. After listening to all those lists, I'm a bit curious what the average deviation between rankings for Load and Reload is. It seems like they were pretty drastic ranking differences, despite that they have the same sound. Looking forward to next week. Cheers. Yeah, I have the same.
That's very true. Yeah,
I had the same thing too. Maybe I can ask my wife to see if she can give us some interesting stats about that. But needless to say, Kevin Van Dam sounds like a Metallica fan after my own heart, for sure.
Agreed, yeah.
Thanks for writing in, Kevin.
No, that's awesome. And I'm with him. I think there was a lot of moments in that episode where Load and Reload were pretty separated.
It's just, I guess it's just got to come down to song choice. Like, I
think so.
People just have to prefer the songs, but I've heard other people say, like, Reload were just leftovers from Load, and I'm not sure that's the case, you know?
It was all the same session. I think they went in intending to record that many songs. I don't think it was like, oh, we have all these leftover songs, let's just put out another record.
I totally agree. I think they got bit by the old use your illusion bug, and from day one intended to make a double record. Right.
All right, well, our next email comes from Peter Lynch. Hey, Ethan and Clint, congratulations on becoming more massive.
Oh, we're so massive.
We're so massive. I'm actually surprised it's taken this long for people to listen in. Well, it's only been about 4.5 months, but we're as surprised as you are. Listening to the Year in the Life episode, and you guys mentioned James using the 2-monitor thing. This is him recording the Black Album in the studio doing vocals. It makes sense to the sound and the lyrics of the Black Album. Nearly all the songs sound like a crisp live version. I think the vocal intro of Wolf and Man is really sharp and crisp. It would have actually inspired James to sing harder and growl. I think I could agree with that. I think it's. I think we talked about it in the episode. I think it's just a way for him to kind of get in that zone and feel like he's doing it live with a band in front of him, kind of thing.
I agree,
and not feel so isolated with headphones on. Then he goes on to say, "When I see delete or deleted anywhere, now I do a Torben."
He does a Torben. Do the Torben.
He does a Torben. Man, we got in shit for it, but I really don't give a shit. I like doing Torben. I think it's so fun. It's great. So thank you, Peter. He goes on to say, you guys are getting better and better, and look forward to hearing many more episodes. Cheers. P.S. If you make it to Brisbane, Australia, which I've been to, I'd be keen to catch up for a pizza or a beer. Tack that onto the beer list.
Nice.
Yeah, and lastly, he says, I'm wondering if anyone outside the United States thinks that New Jersey is the biggest state in the world because every town and city in New Jersey.
No, it's pretty small.
Pretty small, but there's a lot of compact cities in there.
Yeah, it's one of the smaller states, and yet every city that we've ever heard from anyone from is in there. So
someone's going to come to the U.S. one day and land in Newark Airport and go, where's Vagina, New Jersey?
It's just right near Trenton. Just keep driving.
Mm-hmm. It's just if you hit Hoboken, you've gone too far.
If you hit Hoboken, you've just passed Poland. So.
Yeah.
Our last email is, now this is very cool. We a guy named Tom Kwai reached out to us, and he has a new Metallica podcast called Alpha Metallica.
Yeah, brand new, Alpha Metallica.
He writes, "Congrats on the awesome podcast. I've just discovered you guys in the last week or so, and I've been tearing through the episodes. You're a great host with an awesome chemistry. I love the Kirk Hammett episode especially. Thanks for all the great entertainment so far, and all the best to you guys in your continued success." Very sweet. That was kind of his intro to us, and then he went on to describe his podcast. So what Tom is doing is he's doing every Metallica song. He's doing, and they're short episodes. They're 20 to 30-minute episodes where he's just doing a whole episode alphabetically through their entire song list.
Right. And he's released, he launched with 3 episodes, and the first one is 2x4.
Yeah, the first 3 are 2x4, Ain't My Bitch, and All Nightmare Long. And
yeah, it's cool, man.
It's really cool. He's real passionate and he knows a lot about the band. He's in deep like we all are. And the cool thing too is that he's going to have guests every week to talk about whatever song is next. And Ethan and I are going to be on the episode. I'm going to do the Better Than You episode, so I can just wave the Better Than You flag. And Ethan's going to do the one right after that, the Blackened episode.
Yeah, I'm doing Blackened. Yeah, and we had a few emails back and forth with Tom. He seems like a really nice dude. He's doing a great job. Both me and Clint listened to the first 3 episodes, and if you guys want to get another dose of Metallica in podcast world, check out Alpha Metallica.
And it's wherever he's on, wherever you find our crap, it's where his is. It's in if you have an iOS device, it's in that podcast app, and I think
totally.
He's putting all his stuff on YouTube as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Thanks for reaching out, Tom. We're looking forward to hanging with you in the future for sure.
Yeah, man, and best of luck, man. All of our listeners, go check it out.
Unless you become more successful than us, then we'll have to hunt you down all nightmare long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're gonna have to delete you.
Don't make a sick Torben on you now, Tom.
Yeah, Torben doesn't want to do that as much as we don't.
What if the next episode of Alpha Metallica is just like him doing Torben and Dave?
Well, that one dude that wrote to us that didn't like it will definitely not listen to that podcast.
All right, cool. So those are our emails. So before we get into our part 2, we'll just quickly do all of our crap that we have to get out of the way. You can write to us at metalupyourpodcastshow@gmail.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us. We read 10 of these a day, an episode.
Yep.
And even if we don't read it on the show, we typically respond to each of them. And it's really fun hearing from all of you. We get a lot of really cool emails a week.
Definitely.
We're on all the social stuff, Twitter, Instagram. Just look up our show. And is that it? Oh, the other thing. We're still doing our swag contest. So we have these battle jacket patches, which did you see a dude posted on our Instagram page? He already sewed it onto his battle jacket.
Rad. I haven't looked at that yet. I'll check it out here in a minute.
On the back of his jacket, it's just like the big back patch of puppets and then our Metal Up Your Podcast patch.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
So we have guitar picks and we have patches. We're going to be having a lot of cool stuff in the future. But the deal is, if you go to iTunes and leave us a positive review, we will send you for free a patch and some picks and whatever kind of free fun stuff we have laying around. So if you could take the time to go do that, it helps a lot. I know it seems like a small gesture. It only takes a few seconds, and it helps raise the profile of our podcast. And before I throw up on myself, that's the end of the self-promotion stuff.
You're about to black album our podcast. We're going to sell out.
Ruh-roh. Was that the inner Sandman of our podcast? Was it?
Yeah. Giving away picks is us like entering the studio at one-on-one.
So last week we did the first part of A Year and a Half in the Life, which was like basically the making of the Black Album, which was really fun. And now we're going to do the part 2, which is kind of the ensuing monster tour.
Yeah, man. And it's, I mean... Yeah, they hit basically every corner of the globe on this tour. I mean, but this part 2 is so fun because it's probably a few months after they finished the record, they're jumping right into the tour cycle, and it's interesting to we'll go through a lot of the timeline of the documentary, but it's interesting to see like how some of those dudes act on the road, because I know that 3 of them got divorced during the recording of the record, and I don't even think Hetfield was married, so they're probably jumping into this tour all single dudes just ready to party.
Oh my God, I bet it was fun. That's all I can say.
Yeah, as we saw in certain scenes.
So before we get straight into just sort of like running down what's in this film, there's a few things I learned after our last episode. We had some listeners write in from the forum. I mentioned that we didn't know who that Adam Dubin guy was, the guy who's directed this. And it turns out that after he did this documentary for Metallica, he went on to do a bunch of stuff with them. He did the Fan Can stuff, making of Garage Inc., making of S&M, and the making of Through the Never. So, Swerk H from the
definitely
forum
are
hit me to
bad
that.
there.
Well, here's the deal. When I went to Wikipedia, his name did not have there was no hyperlink to his name, so that was the end of my investigation. There was nothing to click on.
You'll make a great private eye one day.
Exactly.
The body's not here. Okay, case closed.
Well, can I click on it on Wikipedia? No. All right, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing that MGROSVENO, I don't even know, Mig Rosevenor.
I'd say Grosvenor.
Oh, Lord. Well, they actually left us a really sweet iTunes review, but they mentioned on the forum that the DVD, I guess, came out in the late 90s, and the DVD came out with the Load era logo, which bummed some folks out.
It did bum some folks out. Yeah, the original one didn't have even the classic logo; just had Metallica in like a normal ass font. But yeah, when they re-released it on DVD, it was in that era, so they decided to add that to it. It didn't really bum me out. It's whatever. I don't sit there and look at the packaging and go, "Oh, fuck this shit," It is
Put
what
it
it
under
is,
put it
whatever.
under a steamroller.
Yeah, I would not steamroll that thing.
And then the last little thing that fans hip us to is we talked about how when CDs were getting hip, that you would get them in these like big jewel cases with these big boxes, and we were talking about how weird that was. So apparently, which TJ Mower from the forum told me about this, apparently they put them in those long cases so they would fit in the vinyl bins, because if they hadn't have sort of had that transition, all of these record stores would have had to completely get new shelving and all that shit. So,
oh, that's right. That is the reason.
They're in those long
Dang
boxes
it.
so that people could browse through them just like vinyl. And he mentioned it, and I had totally forgotten about this, but they even used to put cassettes in those things.
Yeah, totally. I do remember that, man.
Yeah,
it's a smart thing on the record store part.
It's such a simple explanation, but it like blew my fucking mind. I was like, oh.
you had a Keanu Reeves whoa moment.
Dude. Whoa. All right, so I guess we're just gonna kind of talk through the film. What's fun about doing stuff like this is it's basically just me and Ethan just talking Metallica. So
yes,
we're gonna just go through the film, and this one was a bit longer than the first one, so we'll kind of have to burn through some of it. But
yeah, definitely.
I will. It's nice to see that it opens up with just more smelting.
More schmelting.
Is it
Freddy
schmelt?
Krueger style? Smelting.
Schmelting?
Sure.
Whatever. They're doing shit with metal and fire and shit.
Yeah, it's basically the same intro as part one.
I'm telling you, you could take the intro to these films and make a whole horror film out of them. They're really creepy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Freddy Krueger involved.
Well, it looks like they're in his like dungeon doing it. Like
It totally does. Yeah,
Like
he's probably on the other side, like making a new glove. While they're making a Metallica logo.
They're like, Freddie, can we borrow half of your dungeon for a day while we shoot the intro to our film? Thanks.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you, Nightmare Demon guy. So then it cuts to like news blurbs of like people getting excited about the shows, and like the one news anchor is even like, there are jail cells available for. I guess
they're talking about like opening up jail cells and having like X amount of cops on hand and all that stuff, which I guess rightfully so. I mean, this is an era of metal where it was like, I mean, they hadn't like, hit mainstream success. They had with the record, I guess, but like not to what we know them now. People were still afraid, Well, and I got to say, when they show this montage of fans before the show, they seem pretty dumb. They seem pretty violent and volatile. They're like smashing beer cans on their heads and totally. I will say this, like I both Clint and I rewatch any of these films that we're doing an episode on, and last night we finished a show in Austin. I got my bunk and started watching it, and when they showed all those fans, my first thought was, I wonder if a lot of these ones, especially the dudes that were like, fucking Metallica, baby, and like smashing cans in their heads, are those like the new fans that jumped on board with the Black Album and they're basically just like jocks?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know, because then they show like metalheads that are like, some of the metalheads are just as like, seem kind of silly back then and stuff. But you know what? If I was freaking 18 years old, about to go see Metallica on the Black Album tour, I might be doing the same shit. I don't know.
Well, I hope not, Ethan.
Hey, Just wait till we go to Detroit, and then
Are we just going to turn into like lowest common? Are we just going to start like wearing wife beaters and smashing beer cans on our heads? Maybe. I guess maybe we might do that.
I wouldn't put it past ourselves.
Well, I know that there are thoughtful, intelligent, articulate Metallica fans out there. They just did not put any on this DVD.
Yeah, I think they in the editing room they were like, yeah, let's put that dude in there.
Just put the biggest redneck on there. So
who can we put in there after they talk about going to jail?
yeah, how about the guy yelling "fuck Tipper Gore"?
Yeah, fuck Tipper Gore.
That's like his one moment. They're like, all right, dude, we're making this film about Metallica. What do you got to say? You're at the show. He's like, fuck Tipper Gore.
Yeah, totally. That's about the equivalent of like, remember that old video that went viral where they're talking about some little fair in this small town and this kid's dressed as a zombie. And they go, how do you feel, little Timmy, or whatever his name was? He goes, I like turtles. It's about as irrelevant as that.
Yeah, it's like, man, you really blew it.
Yeah. Why'd you say fuck Tipper Gore, man? I mean, I know, yeah, sure, I agree with you, but come on, man, you're on the news.
Well, because I guess at that time she was like, she's responsible for the parental advisory stickers that ended up going on records.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was kind of happening. It's just funny that he went political. He took it political.
I wonder if when the documentary came out and he bought it, and all of a sudden he was like, "Oh, that wasn't a news anchor. Like it was for a Metallica documentary. Shit, I should have said something else."
Wait, they weren't going to present that at Supreme Court later. So then they start showing them loading into the arena, and it's cool because it's the first time that they tried out the sort of in the round thing.
Yeah, and it just having a whole different stage setup, like different ramps going different places and stuff, like and even like different locations for the drums.
Yeah, and I don't think there was like a total in the round, but it was basically they had like the rail, so they basically had like 3 front rows, and
which is very cool.
Where they started doing the like mics everywhere. James could kind of go anywhere and do his thing. I saw a really interesting video of the Summer Sanitarium tour, which was the first time I saw Metallica in 2000.
Right,
and it's interesting because they're interviewing James, and he's pointing to the stage, and he's like, this stage was like one of the best investments we ever had, and it's that same stage that they bought for the Black Album tour. He's like, man,
really?
we've had this for like 10 years. Like we just use the same stage. Like they use different parts of it or whatever, but
that's crazy because I mean, from experience, I know that a lot of bands. I mean, you're just renting that from the production company.
Yeah, they just bought it.
Like, hey. It's money well spent, obviously.
Well, in the 70s, I know that Pink Floyd actually bought their stage and bought their PA, and then when they weren't touring, they rented it out like a business.
Yeah, it's smart.
It was considered at the time to be a pretty forward-thinking business move.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a funny part where they're talking about how they're in the round and they have fans closer to them and stuff, and Kirk is like, he goes on this very like unicorn type Kirk rant about like, he's like, yeah, I was talking to this fan one time and he was telling me that like we're giving them energy and then they're taking the energy and then it's going back into like our heads and down through our guitars, and it's like this circle of energy.
Circle of energy, bro.
And then he goes, I do have to say that the kid who told me that was on acid.
But there's a part of Kirk that believed it. He's like, whoa, you're right.
Yeah, I bet. I can imagine Kirk sitting in his hotel room at 5 a.m, like writing that poetry.
in his red tidy whities or tidy reddies, I guess.
His tidy reddies. He's got a notepad at the top of it. It just says "Circle of Energy."
Yeah, and he's holding his guitar, trying to get it to work again. And so,
how about James and I love seeing their like old school tuning room.
I know, totally. Just like actual amps and drums and
Kirk,
they did that, in recent years until they got hip to like, the
curtain wall.
I've noticed. Yeah, well, I've noticed that this is very nerdy drum talk, but like there's this Remo, the drum head company, makes these heads called silent stroke heads. Zildjian makes these silent cymbals. They're really cool. They feel like cymbals. They sound like a cymbal, but it's really quiet, and you can put triggers on stuff. And I think that's what they're doing now in the tuning room, and then just on their in-ears so they can keep the volume down, I guess. But back then, it was just like, here's your drum kit, and
I'll have you know that I'm drinking box wine with ice, and I just got a big ass ice cube in my mouth, and instead of crunching it into the mic, I'd spit it back into the cup.
Are you still self-conscious about that?
I did that for you guys, by the way.
Yeah, it's for the fans, man.
It's funny seeing James on the drums though, because I know he's like kind of like a closet drum guy. He loves the drums.
Yeah, I got to say his technique, the way he's holding the sticks, he got tuck those pinkies in there, James.
Yeah, it's not great. That's okay though. He's not a drummer.
But this was this is almost 30 years ago. So I think his technique's probably improved.
Hopefully. What do you think about
the whole?
Go ahead.
I was going to say the whole after that scene, there's the whole them talking into the camera to the crowd,
Which I love. I don't know if a lot of bands were doing that, but that had to have been really exciting.
It's really cool. It gets the crowd pumped up. Oh, they're about to come on. The one thing, and maybe somebody can write in and tell us this, that maybe was on this tour, went to this tour.
They will.
They will. No, but I tried to research this. Like when Jason's on the camera talking to the crowd, he's talking about like, watch this short movie real quick. It's 25 minutes, and we'll be out there to kick your ass or whatever he says. And I was like, I wonder what that intro video was. So I started just researching it and trying to find what it was, like trying to find footage from the concert. I couldn't find it.
Well, what I thought he was
I didn't
saying,
search for too long.
What I thought he was saying was, I thought he was introducing the opening band.
Maybe.
Because like I remember I saw Perfect Circle once, and this band called Failure was opening, and
Failure's great, by the way.
Maybe it wasn't Failure then, because
it sucked.
Well, whatever it was real bad. But
Okay.
but Maynard came out before their set, and basically, like he anticipated the fans not liking it, and he kind of did a whole like, "Hey, this band's about to come up. Like, we're huge fans of this band. They're really great. You really need to pay attention to them. Like here they come. And they came on, and I was like really impressed by that, and I was like, man, like because I respect Maynard so much.
Sure.
But after the first song, I was like, well, this sucks. Like, I gave it a shot, and it sucks. I'm going to talk to my friend until you guys come on,
Yeah, that's when you go take a piss or get a beer.
If I was in the crowd, though, and saw them doing that, like Lars being a ham in the camera, I bet that was really... Because I think when Lars was doing it, they were, like, about to walk on stage.
Yeah. I just know when Jason did it, I swear he mentioned something about like
He
this
did.
20 to 25 minute movie thing, and maybe it was just some I don't know, intro movie thing they made. I don't know. Somebody out there probably went to that tour that may be listening and could educate us on that, because I couldn't find it. I researched it a little bit before I fell asleep last night. Well,
that's okay. We all at Metal Up Your Podcast forgive you.
Well, I have to get some sleep sometimes,
dude. Like our house situation, we don't have internet currently, so I had to like go to I went to a Starbucks to try to watch it, then I had to go to the McDonald's McCafe to watch it.
I love that you texted me that this morning.
I was like all around Nashville trying to find this thing. How about Lars looking like a normal dude in the green room, and then from his way to the green room to the stage, he puts a robe on?
Yeah, I will say, I think it's super cocky, but coming off stage, they all have robes on. I think it's honestly a thing just so they don't get sick. Because, you're in arenas, a lot of them can be really cold. You're in your leather jacket, your white leather jacket, for instance, Lars had on. And, you're backstage, you're hanging out, everything's fine. Then all of a sudden, Lars gets down to just like pants and no shirt, and it's freezing. He doesn't want to get sick. Maybe that's what it is. Put on a robe, keep your body temperature up. And for him being a drummer playing a long-ass set, maybe it keeps his joints and his muscles loose. I don't know. That's the nice way of saying I think it's fine.
You just said keep your butt up.
Keep your butt up?
You accidentally said butt. It's okay. Go check the tapes. Check the tapes.
Wait, what? I said keep your butt up?
Well, accidentally, yeah.
I'm gonna have to go check the tapes.
Yeah,
on
you're
that
going
one.
to check the tapes. Here's the deal. He's not going to catch the goddamn flu from the green room to the stage. It's weird. It's stupid.
He's done it. He did it when I saw them in Brisbane, Australia. I was right next to where they walked on and off and to the stage, and from the stage he was in a robe with like the hood over his head too.
They're like, with the hood over his head? They're like 15 minutes late. They're like, what's going on? Why is the band late? They're like, we can't find Lars's robe. We can't get him from the green room to the stage because we don't have his robe.
He's too. What if he's a total germaphobe and he just has to be covered up or something? I don't know.
Maybe. He's
definitely not germaphobe in this documentary because he is touching like butts and stuff and all sorts of things. And
he really likes spitting his drinks into other people's mouths.
Yep, he definitely does.
I remember when I saw them, they were like pouring beer into people's mouths in the front row, and then he was spitting his drink from his mouth into very willing other people's mouths. And
people, yeah.
I remember thinking like, I don't like this band that much.
Totally. If you were that close and he started doing that, you'd be like, whoa, dude, stop.
I would have
the show.
I would have the devil horns out, and I would have I'd be looking at him, but I'd close my mouth. I don't want that.
I would just turn around just to avoid it all.
Just turn around and moon him.
Yeah, totally.
Pour a beer on my butt. This is like becoming the butt episode.
I know. This is definitely the butt episode. Sorry, guys.
So then they show the Sabbath True video, which is a skippity skipper, man, because it's just the live footage. It looks like a fucking Bon Jovi video.
It kind of looks 80s. It's like, empty arena and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't dig it. I'm not into it.
I mean, I get that they probably want it now that they're on the video train. They've climbed aboard. All aboard, let's go. They're making a bunch of videos for this record. I mean, there's essentially 3 videos that aren't actual, like, written out directive. I mean, there's this and Wherever I May Roam are like basically live footage or from arenas, and then Nothing Else Matters is from the studio.
Yeah.
Right. So, but at that time, maybe they were like excited about making videos. So they're like, well, hey, we got this camera crew out here on the road. Let's just make a video in the arena.
Well,
just to get more content out there.
Totally. I mean, MTV was so huge, and MTV fucking loved Metallica. So if they could, on the cheap, if they could just have their documentary team cobble together a video, and then it became a huge hit on MTV, everyone wins, right?
Now, I will say that, as a kid, like when I saw that video, I was pumped. I thought it was great. And I mean, any content I could get as, a kid in junior high getting that record and watching these videos, I would take.
No, I agree. Yeah.
But
it was
now
smart. It was smart.
Yeah.
It just didn't live well. It
didn't hold up. Yeah. As a 38-year-old now, I'm kind of like, I'll go ahead and fast forward to this.
Yeah. Skipperoo.
Yeah. How about the band showering awkward? Well, even before they shower, how come they're just hanging out in their undies, just chatting about the show?
Yeah, it's like I've never had that kind of post-show ritual.
It's a little awkward, unless it's like what they don't show is like in between that and the shower, there's just like a room full of ladies waiting for them or something.
Well, I have read that was the deal.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, well, James talks about it in the Behind the Music where he's like, it wasn't so bad, like walking into, getting washed in the shower by like 5 girls or whatever he says.
Right. Which is exactly what my life is like, by the way.
Oh yeah, mine too. I mean, right now, all the girls are being really quiet, but I mean, I'm in my Holiday Inn room in Jackson, Mississippi, just surrounded by girls. Hey, keep it down, please. All right.
You can bathe my butt later.
I'm podcasting with Clint. He's not here. No, you can't meet him.
Oh, I hate to disappoint.
Clint.
I hate to disappoint all those fake ladies.
Yeah. No, your underwear is on the coat hanger over there, like in the documentary.
And that's just like this weird carryover from like them having like Playboys like all over the studio.
Yeah.
Like Lars has got the panties on a coat. It's just so cliche rock shit.
It's very cliche, but I mean, I kind of have to, like, when I see that stuff in the documentary, I kind of have to put myself, like, in their shoes. Like, if I was in one of the biggest bands in the world, selling out arenas, and any girl, you're single, and like any girl would just come up to you and like sleep with you. It's like, what would I do? I don't know. Like, and you have nobody to tell you can't do that.
I would imagine you, and I know for me, sure, I'd be a little bit more discreet, just a little bit more discreet.
I mean, I definitely wouldn't have a road case with a bunch of coat hangers with underwear on them.
No,
with women's underwear.
It comes off kind of rednecky. That's okay though.
Yeah, but that was the era. But it is a little, I think, left over from the '80s. I think.
Yeah, but they always I always just felt like other than that, they were beyond that stupid '80s shit. But then when they're acting, like, like they make fun of like LA glam shit, but then they act like those fucking idiots. So
they kind of do.
So what's the fucking difference,
I mean, I would say mostly Lars, but
yeah, that's true. There's the interesting scene where it looks like a tour manager is going to all their hotel rooms. I guess to just
waking them up,
just to make sure they're ready to go. And so, like, every other room, he like has to knock, and they kind of sleepily come to the door. Of course, Lars's door is already open, and he's on the phone talking loud. And it's him talking to Bob Rock, apologizing to Bob Rock for not mentioning him when they won the Grammy.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of a mistake there.
He didn't
like the one guy you need to be thanking.
He didn't thank freaking Bob Rock. They thank Jethro Tull. They don't thank Bob Rock.
That was pretty funny that they thanked Jethro Tull for not putting out an album that year.
Yeah, I think Lars is pretty funny.
I think he is too. There's a lot of scenes of him in this documentary. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, just stop. You're on 10 all the time. But I think he's pretty hilarious. No, Hetfield's fucking hilarious in this documentary.
They're all, dude. I think Kirk's really funny too. Like, they're a pretty funny group of dudes.
Kirk has a couple like record scratching moment jokes where I'm like, that's not so good.
Well, what's new? What's changed? He's if anything, he's consistent.
Yeah, I admire him for that.
I love when they're getting on their jet and the jet like they already have a jet with that coiled snake on it.
Yeah, totally.
So fucking cool.
It's really cool. But here's the thing. It's funny that like, they're already like a big band. They've already at this point, I think, sold a couple million records. They've got the private jet, but it's like a prop plane. It's not like a freaking Lear jet.
No, it's not like it's not like Led Zeppelin stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's still, if you could label that as like a humble way of being a rock star, it kind of is. Because they probably could have gotten something a little more badass than that.
Well, any plane looks cooler with a big-ass coiled Black Album snake on it.
Yeah, and it actually says Metallica like near the front or whatever.
So that all the other planes in the sky can see that it's them.
Yeah, but the plane's kind of small. I don't know if other planes can even see them. Like, what is that little...
Yeah, like a 747's like, wait, what is that? Is that Metallica's plane?
Is that a worm over there flying? Oh, no, it's a snake.
A worm?
I was just trying to think of something smaller.
Is that a flying worm?
Is that James Hetfield's middle finger in the window? What is that?
Oh, my God. A worm.
I do love in the documentary how it kind of... there's not really like a chronological order to it. Like, you know, they definitely highlight certain cities, but, you know, it'll show, like, you know, it has the whole scene with them on the jet and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, like, they're at Donington. Mm-hmm. And that is fucking awesome, them playing For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think, honestly, like, again, I've said this before, but no disrespect to Robert, man. He's a total badass bass player. I love how Jason plays this song.
I do too, man.
It really, I mean, it reminds me more of Cliff than the way Robert plays it.
Yeah, I agree.
And kind of has his own vibe to it, too.
Well, Jason's got that great windmill headbang vibe, too.
He does. No crab walking, though. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah. That's actually why Jason ended up leaving the band, is because he didn't have a crab walk vibe.
Yeah, the band was like, hey, I know we're doing this record called Saint Anger. Here's the songs. We have a therapist coming in. And Jason was probably cool with that, but he couldn't do the crab walk, so he was out.
Right. People mistakenly think that he left because of an altercation he had with James over Echo Brain, but the truth is they asked him to crab walk, and he not only was he unwilling to do it, he simply said, I don't know how to.
Yeah, and I'm unwilling to learn.
I don't know how to do it. I'm not interested in learning how to do it.
Yeah, not happening.
The meet and greets are interesting because they it's like you can tell they haven't quite learned how to do it well. Like, they don't seem super comfortable. They seem kind of awkward, and they're funny. They're charming, but it is a little awkward.
I think of anybody, actually, Jason seemed the most comfortable.
Yeah,
he was the one they were kind of having to pull away from that meet and greet in that one scene where they're all, you know, waiting to do like a photo together, and he's still talking to like a reporter. But like, yeah, they seem uncomfortable. I mean, like Lars kind of seems more he's uncomfortable, kind of distracted by like pretty girls and stuff like that.
Well, this is later in the documentary, but do you know what James says when they're trying to pull him away? James goes, he thinks because he's in the mix now, we have to wait for him.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm like, does he mean in the mix, like in the thick of things, or does he mean that he thinks because you can hear his bass on the record now, we have to wait for him?
Oh, like literally in the mix.
Like, I was like, holy shit, you know?
That was hey man, you know, like we said, that's probably part of the hazing process. They just give him shit all the time.
Yeah, well, they do the pies to the face thing for his birthday.
Yeah, I don't know if that's so much hazing, because I know even in recent years they've done that to Kirk, you know, and I don't think I wouldn't call that hazing. Yeah, personally.
You know what? I'll call up James tomorrow. Ask him.
I think it's just good. It's just good fun. You know,
good form, good fun.
Good form and good fun.
Good form fun. So then they do Enter Sandman at the VMAs, that's pretty interesting to see. And James talks about like how like the Enter Sandman definitely brought in new fans, like the impact of the radio.
It totally did. Dude, I remember watching that VMA performance like as it aired.
I do too.
And it was like, I was so excited. I thought it was so badass. And you have freaking like Arsenio Hall like hosting in like his multicolored jacket, like all bright colors and stuff. And yeah, it was to me as a Metallica fan at a young age, it was really exciting to see them on MTV. That was so overrun by so many things in the 80s, like glam rock and all that, you know, 80s pop and stuff like that. And this is also too like around the the grunge explosion time too, and Metallica's still breaking through that.
Yeah, the thing for me is I didn't really know much about them before the Black Album. So to me, MTV has always been synonymous with Metallica because from Black Album on, they were MTV staples until 2000,
Totally.
Which the 90s was kind of my teenage years. So speaking of teenage years, this is when they're like showing, I guess, teenagers at some show, and this one weirdo looking teenager with these two massive cross earrings in one ear, he's saying things like, "This is for the teenagers, man," and that's when the other guy yells "fuck Tipper Gore."
Yeah, totally.
And then another dude goes, "Dude, every generation will scorn the next, man, and their music."
It's so deep, bro.
Another one goes, "Be yourself," and he goes, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, man, this music just means like be yourself." And Lars, this bud's for you.
Oh, it's so good. I love it.
It's so dumb.
I mean, dude, I went to school with guys that looked like those dudes, and I probably would have looked like them if I was a little older and was going to Metallica shows,
I mean, if those dudes were saying that to be funny, then I can imagine hanging with those dudes. But I think they're being real sincere.
Yeah, I think they are too.
Every generation was scorning the next, man, and their music, bro.
And their music.
It's like an archetype for a joke. It's like doesn't seem real to me.
I do love when they're going through them playing like MTV Awards and then the Grammys that like James doesn't really like doing the TV shows. Like he wants it to be louder, and it's got to be weird just playing to a bunch of people sitting down watching you.
Well, and it's also like an interesting foreshadowing of what happened at the Grammys this year.
Yep, totally.
Do you
remember? And there's you can look this up on the European Music Awards. I can't remember exactly the year. I think it was in '99. It was in that reload era. They were supposed to play King Nothing, and something happened where they were pissed off, and they ended up playing So What and Last Caress.
Nice.
Unannounced, like the producers were probably freaking out backstage.
That's the Metallica we know and love.
Exactly.
It is cool that they won. I mean, Grammys, Grammys exist in this strange in-between place where they both are meaningful. To win a Grammy is meaningful. It says a lot about your career, being recognized by your peers in the industry. On the other hand, they also don't mean shit. Like, all the bands that haven't won Grammys aren't like automatically invalidated because they didn't win. Look at fucking Metallica losing to Jethro Tull is a perfect example.
Right.
So, but it is kind of cool that they won it. And James even says, he's like, when we won for Enter Sandman, it felt right. Like, and it's cool how it doesn't come across as him sounding like a dickhead. Like I imagine if Lars had said it, it would have sounded a little creepier. But James is saying, But James is saying we worked really hard. We spent forever in the studio. Like us winning that Grammy felt like the right thing. And it's hard to argue with that,
I agree. Yeah. I mean, they did spend a lot of time and energy, and I mean, like we said before, they went through 3 divorces making that record. I mean, a lot of shit happened when they made that record.
Well, here's what I can guarantee you. They were all real glad to have gotten those divorces pre-Black Album money rather than post-Black Album money.
Yes, 100%.
That bottom line changed big time.
Oh yeah.
What we got next is with the Jason's fucking sandwiches scene.
Oh man, we've brought this up before, man. I love this scene. There's Kirk giving him shit for making sandwiches.
Yeah.
To take back to the hotel. And
Jason's like, "Yeah, you can call me a cheapskate. I'm proud of it. I'll be the first one to say I'm a cheapskate."
Yeah, I got planned for those millions, and they're not for fucking sandwiches.
That Metal Injection interview that just came out this week or last week that Gene told us about. They ask him, they say, "Could you live off of Black Album royalties for the rest of your life, like with as your only income?" It's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
And the dude even prefaces it by saying, "I know this is personal. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to." And Jason's pretty diplomatic about it, but he's like, "Man," he said, "Well, when they finally cut me in as a member instead of just paying me as a hired gun, which I think took like 6 months." He said, "When they finally cut me in as a member, they got me hooked up with all of their like really astute business people and got us all set up with investments." He was like, basically, he actually even says, "My Black Album money, I give to other people. Like I give that to other things."
Wow. So like he possibly could live the rest of his life financially on everything on what pre-Black Album, just Justice and
Yeah, I think he probably took his first million or couple million, which he definitely made before the Black Album. I would guess.
Yeah, I would guess too. Yeah,
from Justice royalties, because he had a co-write on Blackened.
Right.
So even if they were treating him as a hired gun, which he would have still been cut in by them, because I think he joined the band in '86. But I think he took his first chunk of money and was smart with it. So Black Album royalties is just icing on the cake. But
I mean, I think him making sandwiches to take to the hotel, I mean, it proves that. I mean, even though he just was on a record that at this point sold, I think, 5 million or something at that point when they're on the road, and he's making sandwiches still to take back to the hotel, he's clearly a bit of a frugal guy, and like he's to live extravagantly and stuff, and he's smart with his money.
It's indicative of other virtues he has probably in that area. And it's funny because Kirk's like, they're like looking at their room service checks, and Kirk's like, I had the caviar omelet or whatever.
Yeah.
And James goes, I didn't even order anything and I owed $40.
Yeah. It is interesting to see them getting per diem on the road too.
Really interesting, because you and I both know that's a important part of all of our touring, but it's interesting to see Metallica doing it.
It's weird because, I mean, their bank accounts probably all at this point had a lot of money, and then they could just like pull their card out and go out and to a bar, to a restaurant, whatever.
Here's your $30.
Yeah, you get $30 a day. There you go.
Yeah, it's funny. Kirk's like, "Where's the drug dealer?" Or what does he say? "Let's go gamble," or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah.
I've made that exact same joke 100 times.
Nice.
They do this they do a different meet and greet, and they have these like weird girls there. And this one, like, pretty attractive girl, but kind of a scary vibe. She's like,
oh, yeah, totally.
She tells Lars that he's her higher power. And she's like, yeah, but both times you came to Maine, I was locked up.
Yeah, she was incarcerated.
and then, of course, she's the one that wants her butt signed.
Of course, yeah. But he kind of seems like into her.
Oh, big time.
Like they take a photo together, and he's looking all comfortable next to her, like, I don't care if you've been in jail, woman. Let's hang out.
Oh, he's not worried about her rap at all.
Oh,
she
man,
goes, he could spit on me and I would still love it. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Gosh.
That's some strong flavor.
I wonder what she's doing these days.
She's probably locked up.
I'd imagine she's in a penitentiary in Maine.
In Maine, New Jersey.
Maine, New Jersey,
Still
of course,
waiting for Lars to come spit on her, because I guess that's how she exercises all those feelings she has for Lars. They show Lars going into like a bar, and he's like talking about there's a Kiss cover band playing.
Yeah.
He's like, you guys got to check it out. They're way better than Kiss ever was. I was like, oh.
I like watching this documentary as many times as I have. Every time that scene happens, I'm like, I wish they would show the Kiss cover band that he's talking about. Just like a 10-second clip of them. You hear noise, but
there's a lot of good Kiss tribute bands, especially in the New England area.
Where's Mini Kiss from?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know much about that.
Mini Kiss? You've heard of Mini Kiss?
I know. Yeah,
right?
The Mini Kiss is like opened for Kiss before.
Oh, okay.
What is it? It's short people who who do a Kiss tribute band.
Yeah, short people. Yeah. What? I was expecting you to say little people, but I've just never heard short people.
I did the Randy Newman thing. I said short people. I meant little people.
Okay.
Small people, short people, little people.
Yeah, they've played in Nashville before. I've never seen them, but I've looked at videos of them online. It's pretty awesome.
I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, dude. So like I mentioned earlier, when they kind of jump around from like the U.S. tour and then doing stuff overseas, kind of after this, they show them in Moscow doing Harvester of Sorrow. Yeah,
it's so killer.
That Moscow show was something crazy, like 500,000 people.
Yeah, it's like one of the more iconic images I have of Metallica is like, I guess from seeing that, I've seen that video for so long of them doing that song with that many people, those like big wide shots. That's like
it's insane.
It's one of the go-to images I have of that band.
And there's like helicopters flying around, like military helicopters, and there's like all the Russian military is right in front of them as security. Hetfield talked about it a bit on, I think it was the Joe Rogan podcast, just how surreal that was. Like, I mean, it's one thing if you're playing a festival and there's like 10,000 people there. That's insane. But I mean, 500,000 people, I mean, that's mind-blowing. And those images are just insane to see that sea of people. You cannot see the end of it.
Yeah, and I've never played to that many people, not anything really close to that. But I have done like 30 to 50,000. And it's weird because after like 10,000 people, it just kind of feels the same. There's a strange psychological, like, if you really contemplated how many people you were playing to in that moment, you'd probably collapse, right? So
Right.
it's like I get more nervous in a small club than I do sometimes at those big shows.
I played a house show once in front of 20 people, and that was the most nervous I'd ever been.
Exactly, just because you're not going to get away with shit.
Totally. And I was playing acoustic, so...
Yeah, if Kirk did a house show like that, he'd have 10 wah pedals around the whole living room.
Oh, there would be a wall of wah pedals just to protect him from the 20 people watching him.
He's just always, instead of a Pope mobile, he has like a wah pedal mobile.
A wah mobile, yeah.
A bulletproof wah mobile.
And Kirk, I know you're listening. If you ever want to do a house show at my house, you're more than welcome, man.
Yeah, it's a little place called Metal Up Your Podcast HQ.
That's right.
When they're like trying to debut, I guess it was a big deal for them to debut Nothing Else Matters because it was the big ballad with the big orchestra. It's weird to it's weird to see him now to kind of like stress over it because it's such a staple now. But I guess it was a big deal when they were going to debut it.
I mean, songs like The Unforgiven, it's still a ballad, but it's heavy. There's big guitars the whole time, pretty much. You know, maybe the chorus comes down, but Nothing Else Matters was a straight up ballad, like really slow.
Well, and it's cool. They get that double neck SG 12 string, and they show them like rehearsing it, and that, I think. And then Lars says, we're going to do it if Kirk can learn the intro. So I guess Kirk playing that intro has just been part of the plan the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I know Hetfield recorded it, so maybe he thought Hetfield was going to do that part. Yeah, that'd be a tough one. I mean, if you think about what's on that track on the record, I mean, there's a whole string section, which obviously they haven't been able to do live. So you gotta, strip it down, and it's come across live very well. But yeah, it was interesting to see them kind of like panicking about it.
What do you think about that scene when James is in that country bar playing like blues?
I think it's awesome.
He like gets up there with like this kind of cool little house cover band.
Oh yeah, it's great. I thought that was awesome.
The guy introduces him as James Hatfield.
Hatfield, yeah. Like Juliana Hatfield.
But James is playing like these like kind of pentatonic blues stuff, but like putting in these like real metal-y pinch harmonics in it. It's pretty weird.
I don't think he could kind of avoid that because that's what he does every night.
Well, that's true.
If I had to guess as to why he was throwing those in there, or maybe he was just trying to be funny, I'm not sure.
He looks like he's pretty sincerely trying to play the blues. My guess would be that his palette is limited.
Yeah, maybe, at least back then. I mean, I know that he's into a lot of other stuff besides metal, obviously country and blues and rock and roll and stuff like that. But it was just cool to see him, just being a commoner playing with a house band at a bar.
Well, it is true too. Like his bigger solos, the Puppet solo and the Nothing Else Matters solo, they're really bluesy solos. That's kind of the hallmark of his.
Oh, the
thing.
Nothing Else Matters one especially.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and then so we're kind of in the like second hour of the doc, and I think it gets kind of boring.
Yeah, there's no. I mean,
because there's no real purpose to it. Because the first half is like we're documenting the making of this record. The second one is just like cobbled together tour footage, and some of it's funny and interesting. Some of it's just kind of boring. I hate to say.
Well, I mean, I'd imagine, especially for something being 2.5 hours long. I don't know how much of a plan they had, other than maybe, hey, let's bring this camera crew out. They'll document the tour and what it's like. It's just, I mean, really the whole thing is just a lot of things, just clips, just spliced together. And here you go. This is the road. Here's some funny things that happened. Here's, Kirk drooling over Jimi Hendrix's guitar, things like that. So it's still cool to see and fun to watch, but it does get a bit boring in the second half.
I'll do like when Jason is talking about how he was a Metallica fan and that he went to some show in Phoenix and stood in front of Cliff the whole time. He's like, I bought the $14 T-shirt, and
God, how crazy for someone like that to have stood in front of Cliff the whole show, and then fast forward, he's in the band.
Yeah, just a few short years later. Yeah,
it's so crazy.
And the people who don't like know much about Metallica or whatever, who used to slag him for wearing Metallica shirts on stage, I always loved that because it was his tribute. It was him saying, "I'm a fan."
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think one of the, we talked about the second half getting a little bit boring. I think one of the highlights of the second half is the Freddie Mercury tribute.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff.
I especially love the rehearsal footage of Hetfield going to rehearse with Queen and Tony Iommi, and you see like Vivian Campbell from Def Leppard there, and they show a clip of Slash and stuff. And I love how nervous he was.
He looks both nervous and super stoked.
Oh yeah, when he started singing, all of a sudden, like you could tell he got comfortable, and like he holds the mic like upward, kind of like.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's kind of
it's
weird.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a little weird, but I mean, he sounded fucking great. And obviously, they covered Stone Cold Crazy before, so what better song for him to do with Queen?
I thought it was awesome, and Tony Iommi played guitar, which obviously Sabbath was a huge influence, and
oh yeah,
and it does seem like they're friends because it's like when he gets there, he sees Tony, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, I'm playing on the song."
Yeah, I'm playing with you.
Yeah, I guess
totally.
they had already gotten big enough to where they were palling around with those dudes.
Yeah, and it was just, man, it's just really cool to, like I said, to see Hetfield kind of almost feel like a kid again. Here's some of his heroes right in front of him. He gets to sing with them to honor Freddie Mercury for this AIDS benefit.
Yeah, it is interesting seeing them hang with Slash because true to Slash's reputation, he is super fucked up in like every scene he's in this thing.
Almost annoyingly.
Oh,
like
big time.
I mean, like he bumps the table, knocks a beer on Hetfield. He's like, "Thanks a lot, dick."
Yeah, I think James goes, "Look out, fuck."
Yeah. I mean, I know they're still buddies and stuff, but I mean, this is also in that era where that Slash and those dudes are probably already over Axl.
Oh yeah.
Even when they show the clip of all the different singers and musicians coming in to Wembley, you see Duff briefly, and he looks fucked up too. And then it shows Axl just like, getting whisked off to his dressing room, and those dudes in Guns N' Roses were already over it, so it makes perfect sense that Slash is just completely fucked up anytime you see him.
Well, there's a lot of like scenes of like him hanging with Lars. There's that pretty funny scene with Sebastian Bach where they're, like joking, and Sebastian Bach's like mock interviewing them.
Oh yeah,
he's like, this guy's
Dave Mustaine.
Yeah,
choose or lose.
Choose or lose. He's like, this guy's got a future ahead of him. He's talking to Slash. Slash has got that towel on his head.
Yeah,
but it's
totally.
like Slash wanted to hang out with the Metallica guys more than his own band even. And for those,
for sure.
For those of you listening, Ethan and I are massive Guns fans. So the cross section, even though the tour was riddled with controversy, obviously James getting burned and the sort of prima donna type shit where it was supposedly a 50-50 co-headline, but they had all these things they argued about, blah, blah, blah. But that cross-section is just one of the most amazing moments of rock and roll history for me. I know for you too.
Yeah, totally. Well, and it's interesting in the documentary, you can tell, I mean, as we all know, that a lot of those things that didn't make it 50-50 were Axl. They weren't Slash or Duff.
Totally.
And when Slash is hanging out in the dressing room, that Slash is on Team Metallica. He's like, "Fuck it, man. These are my friends." And fucking James reading Axl's writer.
Oh, it's
and
so
going,
good.
"Oh, it is so good." Little cube cheese to make him sing like this.
Yeah, he goes. He needs the cubed ham to get it down his tiny little throat.
Yeah, I know.
He says, "Dom Paragon."
Tom Paragon. Yeah.
I think James is fucking hilarious, dude.
Oh, he's hilarious in this documentary. It's so good.
It is
in general, he is.
It is a bummer to see. Like, we've seen this footage forever. Obviously, Behind the Music was kind of the big one that showed a lot of this footage. But of him getting burned at that show, it's still disturbing to see.
Yeah, definitely. And what I really paid attention to when I rewatched this last night was because I've seen that footage so many times at the big flame ball or whatever, but last night I was listening to his guitar part and how it like all of a sudden starts to stutter a little bit, and then it's like and all of a sudden it just cuts off.
Yeah,
it's like he's playing it as he's getting burned for a second.
Yeah,
and all of
it's
a sudden
like he kept
he's like, "Oh
playing.
shit, what's happening?"
Yeah, it's like he kept playing for a second, but then I think that final little crunch you hear is all the strings melted off and snapped off.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's what happened. Either that, or like somebody ran out there and ripped it off of him or something. But man,
now here's what's interesting and cool, and I use the word interesting to basically mean not great about this. So John Marshall comes in, right, to play guitar, which is very, very cool. And
yeah, he was Hetfield's guitar tech at the time.
Hetfield's guitar tech, who's a capable guitar player, and it's really cool that they kept the show going and all that. So they show this live version of Nothing Else Matters, and it's pretty rough, dude. Like, Kirk's,
a little rough,
Kirk's
yeah.
doing the intro. They're in their sort of like classic Metallica shitty clean tone world, and James is not singing great because I know he's not used to not having that guitar. But that fucking solo comes up, and I thought for sure Kirk was going to do it. John Marshall does it and kills it.
And he plays great.
He played it awesome.
He's a really good guitar player.
Man.
And that's, it's fun. It's interesting. That's as I've learned being a guitar tech and knowing a lot of friends who are guitar techs, there's a lot of cases with huge bands where the guy that's tuning your guitars is better than you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to say that John Marshall could write the amazing classic riffs that Hetfield has, but as far as just being, technically a good player, like John Marshall's great.
Well, Tommy Thayer, who's been the Kiss guitar player for like 12 years now, the Kiss fans are super divided on whatever his legitimacy in the band because he wears Ace's makeup. But
whatever,
who fucking cares? But I'm an originals purist guy. Like I love the originals.
Sure.
But I think Tommy being in the band is great, and I would take the gig in a heartbeat. But before he joined the band, he was just affiliated with the band. He was like did tour managing stuff and. He was always affiliated with the band.
So he worked for them.
He did kind of work for them. He was in a band called Black and Blue that Gene produced in like the late 80s. So he was kind of always around. But when they did the reunion tour, they got Ace and Peter back. It was Tommy who taught Ace how to play all of his parts. And Tommy's like been on record saying like Ace quit being my hero the week I had to teach him how to play his parts because he was so out of his mind.
Like play his own parts.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Because
that's crazy.
Because he was such a huge fan and such a great, capable guitar player, and he kind of loosely worked for the band and was friends with the band this is years before they ever knew he would even be in the band. But but he was the dude who was like, they probably booked a week or two at SIR in New York and had him sit down with Ace Frehley and like having
God, that had to have been a really like shitty feeling. Like, here's how you play your solo that you wrote on this song.
I bet it was an exciting and intimidating prospect, but then when he got into it and saw that these guys were still kind of fucked up and still taking for granted this thing that he loved, which I'm sure that John Marshall had none of that, but
yeah, I would have been sad. Like, man, this is one of musical heroes, and he can't even remember the part he wrote.
Totally, yeah. I'm sure it was.
What a bummer.
I'm sure it was a real trip for sure.
Dang.
I wonder what it was like. So John Marshall fills in the gap, right? Stands in the gap for James.
Yeah,
kicked ass. What a fun opportunity for him to kind of come out from side stage and actually be on stage. I wonder what it was like for him to go back. Did he continue teching for them for a while, or do you know much about John Marshall?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he still teched for them for a while, but I'm sure it was tough. I mean, but at the same time, your role. You know that you're filling in. Hetfield's arms are fucked up. He can't really play.
Yeah,
the drill. It's not like you're joining Metallica. I mean, I'm sure he was honored enough just to be asked to do it.
Yeah,
and I've said this. Like, I'm a guitar tech right now, and I've said this to other guitar techs. Like, hey man, learn the parts of the guy you're teching for just in case. And I always bring up the whole thing with Hetfield.
Yeah, well,
because
Well, you did do that for a bit, right?
I did do that for a bit. Yeah, I played utility with Kings of Leon for about a year and a half to 2 years.
Right.
And I already had kind of learned all the utility parts that the guy was playing just because, every day when I would check the guitar during sound check, that's what I would check it with as parts from their songs.
Right.
Just so the front of house guys got something good to work with. And then when it came down to, the guy leaving, it was like, hey, we want you to do it. Okay, cool. I know the parts already.
Yeah, it's easy.
Didn't have to do as much homework.
I wonder if John Marshall ever had nights, he's saying his prayers and saying goodnight, and he's like, dear God, please make James's arm well again. And then also dear God, please let James break his arm or something. please let James' arm never heal so I can be in Metallica.
Yeah, please let his left hand never function the correct way again so he can't play riffs and I can do it.
I hope it heals and that he's able to hold his daughter's hand, but I hope he can never play guitar again. Is that too much to ask?
That would be crazy to think about if from then on they would have been a 5-piece.
Oh, man. Well, that goes back even to that John Bush hypothetical, and even the what would if Dave Mustaine joined the fold again hypothetical.
Yeah, totally, man.
I can't see him as a 5-piece, man. There's something powerful about whether it's Rob or Jason or Cliff, but those 4 dudes on a stage.
Of course, yeah. And Hetfield has to have a fucking guitar in his hand. Come on.
Well, he's a monster guitar player.
Of course he is, yeah.
He's not like some of these frontmen who play. They're like capable guitar players. They sort of get the job done. That's not the case with James. I mean, James is the backbone and heartbeat of Metallica. I know I just used two allusions usually reserved for the drummer, but I think in Metallica it's James.
He's like the liver and the appendix, man. The appendix. Why did I say the appendix? The appendix sometimes gets removed.
Yeah, the appendix is super expendable. Robert's the appendix.
Robert's the appendix.
And unfortunately, apparently Jason was too.
Yeah, that's true. Or maybe Jason was more like the tonsils because he did a lot more vocally.
Oh shit, man! Our anatomy illusions here are getting real serious.
Yeah. Anatometallica.
Alphabetical Anatometallica.
Metallica.org.
It's a new podcast we're doing where we compare each member and each stage of Metallica to the human body. It's pretty neat.
It's still in the developmental stage right now, so we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, 2014. We're going to coincide it with the next Metallica studio record. So
yeah.
So all right. So the film then ends with the Wherever May Roam video, which again is live footage, and I even wrote in my notes is boring.
Yeah, it is. It is the same kind of deal. I mean, again, when I was younger, it was great. Doesn't really hold up. Even last night when I was watching this whole deal on my bunk, I fast forwarded and kind of watched the funny stuff during the credits, and then we're done.
Yeah, the credits for both parts are pretty entertaining and funny.
Of course, yeah, they're very funny. But I mean, as a whole, I mean, like we said, this is a little boring towards the second half of this. There's some good highlights with the Queen stuff. And even Metallica's performance at that Queen concert, the AIDS benefit, is great. But overall, I mean, this whole part 1 and part 2, I think, are essential Metallica viewing.
Oh, for sure.
Especially part 1.
Part 1 is as important as anything else they've released, I think.
I mean, you're watching, they documented history being made.
Yeah, for sure. And I was thinking too, like when I was watching part 2 last night and then this morning, I was thinking like, what is it about part 2 that's not great? And and the same things we just mentioned, like it's a little draggy, it doesn't have a lot of purpose, it jumps around, blah blah blah. But you know what diamond it's missing from the first one?
What's that?
Fucking Bob Rock.
Bob Rock should have been on the road just to produce their actions every day or something.
Well,
I don't know. But
there's something in the Bob Rock's vibe. Like there's something kinetic and there's like a friction in his deal that made that first part of the documentary more interesting.
Well, it was the first time someone stood up to Metallica and was almost like that father figure in the studio.
Well, yeah, it's him as a producer in top shape, right? But it's also like he's funny and like nerdy and he dresses stupid. So it's just like it's a multifaceted thing that I'm attracted to in that first part.
Let's go to fucking Hawaii.
Let's go to fucking Hawaii.
No, I mean, I think you have to take part 2 for what it is. It's those 4 dudes being on the road, acting crazy, and God knows what kind of footage is out there that we haven't seen that they couldn't show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and them also having no idea if it would sell well, or if people would like it, if anyone would even care that they put it out. So
yeah,
little did they know.
Sure, man.
Little did they know that all these years later, Ethan and Clint would be devoting an entire hour of their podcast to it.
Yeah, an hour and about 13 minutes at this point.
I guess actually 2 hours and 13 minutes if you count our last episode.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is the first part 1 and 2 we've done. I don't know if we're gonna do the same for load and reload or not, but we kind of had to do it with this one.
Yep. All right. Well, that was fun. We did it.
Yeah, we did it. That's awesome. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks as always. You know where to find us on all the stuff. And by the way, go find us on all the stuff. I'm not going to list it all.
Go find us on all this stuff.
But we're doing actually special stuff for each of it, for Twitter and Instagram. We're putting on cool different content. Just go find us on all the crap and do it.
Yeah, you can find us on all the crap. And since we didn't plan on it, but it's become Bob Rock month, next week's episode is going to be pretty awesome.
We got our Bob Rock episode with old Paul Moak.
Yeah, we have a producer, a good friend Paul Moak, coming in to talk about Bob Rock. So I will be back home off the road for that episode. So we'll all be at Metal Up Your Podcast HQ in the round talking about Bob Rock. And
we're going to start having a lot more guests too. We're sort of cracking the code on getting that to make sense. We haven't forgotten about having our fans call in. We're going to do all that stuff too.
And a couple of you that have actually donated on Patreon, where the tier reward is to be a guest, we haven't forgotten about you either. We're going to make it happen. We will obviously make good on those promises.
Yeah, and so what Ethan's talking about there is we have a Patreon, and there's different incentives for if you want to support the show financially. It's not to make us rich or pay our bills. It's to facilitate the show, the hosting, the website, the patches, the picks, blah blah blah. One of the incentives that we have a few people that have already signed up for is that you can actually come on the show and pick the topic and hang out with us on the show for about 30 minutes. So we're going to be doing that soon in the next couple of months. It's exciting stuff, Ethan. I'm pretty excited.
Hey, man, I'm pretty excited here in Jackson, Mississippi.
Which that is quite an achievement because there's not a lot to be excited about there. I've been there, unfortunately, many times. Which, you know what, that's where our friend Paul Mocha's from. That's
true. I'm going to go find his family, and I'm going to go get some insight on Paul that I don't know about before we have him on our podcast.
Or at least just get a nice non-on-the-road meal.
Totally. In the meantime, I'm going to stare at my hotel room window at this beautiful outlet mall that's right below me.
Sounds like you're somewhere in America.
I'm in America.
Well, thank you to all of you who listen. We really appreciate all of you. Send us an email at metalupyourpodcastshow@gmail.com about a year and a half in life or about whatever the fuck you want, as long as it's related to Metallica.
Exactly.
And we'll see you
all right,
next
thanks
week.
for listening, everybody. Adios.
Peace.
If you were our advisor, what would you say? Then I would say, delete that.